Hello once again, everyone. This is Paul, the Oakenite, hoping that your holiday decorating is winding down. We began ours just before Thanksgiving, and hopefully we're getting to the end of it. Today I will present an overview of Skyhawk, Rolling Thunder 1966, published by Legion War Games and designed by Steve Dixon. While Skyhawk is a brand new offering, Steve's name should resonate, as he also designed titles such as Target for Today, Target for Tonight, and others, drawing inspiration from the venerable B-17 Queen of the Skies. My apologies to Steve's partner, Bob Best, who has given co-designer credit with Steve as printed on the game map, but is only listed as co-developer along with Steve in the rulebook. I'm confused. Skyhawk places you in the role of an A4 driver attached to VA-72 Bluehawks aboard the carrier Franklin D Roosevelt CV-42. The FDR, also known as the Swanky Frankie, the Foodaroo, or simply Rosie by the men who sailed on her, served 2 tours of duty off the coast of Vietnam during Operation Rolling Thunder in 1966. The game, of course, lets you play missions as one-off attack sorties, but the heart of the game is the campaign mode, where you can play either of Rosie's 2 tours or a combined 2-tour campaign. Components. Skyhawk is delivered in a good quality 1 3/4-inch deep box adorned with Skyhawk Tribute, a painting by Roy Grinnell, and the usual game synopsis on the reverse. The game is a purpose-designed solitaire game and is therefore rated high for solitaire suitability. Complexity is rated as medium-high, which I agree with, but could have possibly been lowered a notch with a bit of streamlining. The hard-mounted 11 by 17-inch map gives a top-down view of the Swanky Frankie and leads your pilot through his mission via a succession of status boxes showing your progress through the mission. From launch to the target to catching the 3-wire, the entire mission happens on the map. Additional status boxes support optional aircraft repair rules and an optional Sar Minigame to recover downed pilots. Several player aids are provided, of varying importance. Some are merely schedules for you to photocopy to keep track of your campaign. Some, such as the ice cream suit provided for you to attach medals to, are mere eye candy. The real important one is the sequence of play, which all by itself will replace tons of verbiage in the rulebook, leading you through all the actions you need to take to execute your mission. Also important, the aircraft damage chart. Skyhawk has a very detailed damage model for your aircraft, and the chart showing which weapons may be mounted on which pylon. Tough choices, especially when your target's location will determine how many external fuel tanks you will need. 2 sheets of counters provide all the friends, foes, and status markers you need. Counter size ranges from 6/10 of an inch for ordnance and military decorations to 3/4 of an inch for pilots, foes, and friendly support aircraft, and 1.2 inches for you and your squadron of A4s. If I were to change anything, I guess it would be to reduce the A4 counters to a mere 1 inch so that they snuggled into the mission status boxes a bit better. As they are, they seem a touch large for the mission progression boxes on the map. Not a big deal. A bigger deal is when you open the box, you see a counter errata sheet plus 6 stickers for counters that were inadvertently omitted. You will need to peel and stick the images to the blank, white, 3/4-inch counters that should have been knockout counters signifying the elimination of various sources of ground fire during your mission. In addition, 4 500-pound snake-eye counters were mislabeled as Mark 81s instead of Mark 82s, and the EA-6 intruder support aircraft were printed as F-6 intruders. Nothing is provided to fix these errors, so you will just have to be aware of them during gameplay. I hope that Legion makes good on these errors by printing corrected counters and either mailing them directly to customers who purchase the game, or at least including them in the follow-on game Steve said it was likely to come, covering the U.S.'s Linebacker II offensive that occurred later in the war. Skyhawk includes 3 booklets that explain and support gameplay. All 3 are printed in grayscale on semi-gloss paper. The overall effect feels like an upgrade from the matte paper used in Target for Today. However, moving on to the wonderful world of color would have been a nice touch. Maybe next time. Charts and tables. Skyhawk is very much like Steve's earlier games, that are all heavily chart dependent. The chart book is 20 pages with 28 charts covering just about everything that can happen to an A4 on a combat mission. The style of play goes all the way back to the much-loved B-17 Queen of the Skies, and I have to confess crewing my flying fortress with a crew named after just about everyone I knew back in the day. I still feel bad about my buddy Bob getting killed over Hamburg. Well, sort of. Second, the Target Listing Gazetteer. The TLG JCS 94 provides all the information that you need to hit targets inside of Vietnam. As a professional military officer, you have absolutely no say in what you hit, how you hit it, or when. All of that was decided in the Oval Office between President Lyndon Baines Johnson and his all-civilian team of advisors during so-called Targeting Tuesdays. Yes, back in the day, we should all have slept comfortably knowing that the war was being run by former Ford Motor Company President Robert McNamara, then known as the most intelligent man in America. Don't get me going on this. The Gazetteer booklet is a slim 8 pages, much skinnier than the 56-page Tome of Destruction included in Target for today. Apparently, there were a lot more targets in Nazi Germany than in Vietnam. Go figure. Third, the rulebook. The 40-page rulebook can be divided into 3 major sections. All sections are printed in an easy-to-read 2-column per page format using a reasonable font. No issues here. That being said, there are virtually no illustrations in the book, no extended example of play, and but a few examples given the page count of the text. While it has a table of contents, it does not have an index. Yes, I will keep harping on this until somebody listens. The Single Ship Game. The first 25 pages teaches how to fly a single A4 across Vietnam, bomb a target, and safely return to Rosie's waiting arms. The assumption is that you are flying as part of a formation of A4s, but the game mechanics focus entirely on you, your aircraft, and your fate. Mission Planning. After receiving your attack orders via the Gazetteer, you are allowed to select your ordnance. The Targeting Tuesday crew must have knocked off early this week. And plan your intended attack profile. Support aircraft, if any, are added to your mission to get you to the target and home safely. The number of support aircraft formations allocated to the mission is determined via a die roll on one of the many tables. You have free choice of which support aircraft to accompany your strike, which raises the issue why you would not take the best, most flexible aircraft with you each and every mission. This cries out for a house rule, as there will never be a reason to take an F-8 Crusader over a flight of F-4 Phantoms, or an A3 Sky Warrior over an A6 mislabeled as an F6. You also select your ordnance depending on the target type, attack profile, munitions availability, and political considerations. Target ingress. Then it is time to launch. Naturally, there are tables for weather, launch events, never good, and the possibility of an inbound event, sometimes good. Your flight progresses to hitting the tanker with, of course, a die roll on an event table, followed by support attacks on the NVA required to get you to the target. There are 4 types of NVA units inviting you to the Hanoi Hilton. Each is represented by a status box to which you allocate support aircraft capable of engaging that specific type of unit. For example, only support aircraft with the SA ability may engage the small arms box. Up to 2 support aircraft may engage each type of ground unit. Only 1 may be allocated to fight MiGs. After allocating support aircraft fire first using the appropriate tables. If they achieve a knockout result, then there is no return fire. If not, then there is. Suppressed results carry a -1 penalty on NVA fire and are in effect for the remainder of the mission. A second suppression carries a -2 penalty and then converts to a knockout after the shot. Return fire from small arms, AAA, and SAMs affects the allocated support aircraft and your Skyhawk. Return fire from MiGs will only affect your Skyhawk if there are no support aircraft allocated. SAMs follow a slightly different procedure, beginning with a roll to determine whether the radar operators use or shut down their radar. If they leave it on, then the normal table procedure is used. If not, then a downgraded procedure is performed. Your altitude may preclude certain classes of ground fire from attacking you. Specifically, small arms fire only affects your aircraft at low altitude. SAMs may only affect at medium and high altitude, unless your A4 is on a SEAD mission. Target attack. Aircraft fly through the target approach, target attack, and target exit zones to prosecute their attack. The attack procedure just described is repeated in each of the three zones, but with all knockouts and suppressions from prior attacks still in effect. Once an enemy attack box is knocked out, no further attacks of that type may be performed during the remainder of the mission. So, for example, once the SAMs are knocked out, there will be no more SAM attacks the balance of the mission. When your attack group reaches the target attack box, you may attack using a single type of ordnance. You do, however, have the choice as to how many bombs to drop and from which pylons, so that you can set yourself up for multiple passes over the target. In real life, I think this practice was avoided whenever possible, but you can if you want to. The attack is done with, you guessed it, a single die roll on an attack table with die modifiers in effect. Once you reach the target exit, you will have the choice to circle around and repeat the attack process or begin egress to the carrier. Egress requires a few steps, which trigger random event rolls, fuel checks, and a trap roll. Home sweet home on the Foodaroo. The campaign. The second rules section lays out the two campaigns along with options to provide a deeper treatment of aircraft repairs, pilot rotation, pilot wounds, and scoring. You are still flying a single ship, but is in the context of a historic fight. The rules, without options, have your avatar flying a mission every other day. According to the first campaign, would have you fly 16 missions. Combined with the second campaign, you could fly upwards of 50 missions. That sounds like a lot, but each mission, including planning time, might take something like 20 minutes, so total play time may be in the 15 to 20 hour range. Still a lot, but nowhere near what some games will take. Optional rules. The final major subdivision of the rules contains several substantial optional rules. While there are a number of optional rules in the campaign section, the finals rules section has nothing but optional rules. The first option allows your ship to fly as part of a 4-ship division. Your aircraft follows the detailed rules you already know. The others use a simplified system. Other rules further extend operations by tasking your squadron with a random number of divisions, up to 4, with your A4 being a small cog in this larger machine. Additional options allow you to control multiple 4-aircraft divisions hitting multiple targets within a single mission. But these are all options outside the main path of the game, blurring but not eliminating the focus on your pilot, your aircraft, and your fate. So what do I think of Skyhawk? Skyhawk is almost like two games crammed into one box, so let's address them separately. First, there is the single ship pilot game that includes one-off missions and the campaigns. For the most part, these rules are clearly written and will allow you to enjoy the game. I do believe, however, there is room for improvement. First, Legion needs to do something to make good on the counter printing errors. Enough said. Second, the tie to the venerated B-17 Queen of the Skies should be reassessed. 20 pages of 28 tables is just too much. Herman Lutman demonstrated that tables can be printed on cards to good effect in A Most Fearful Sacrifice. Why not lose an event table, for example, by including event cards with the table printed right on the card? Further, the game board is only a quarter the size of a standard board. Why not make a full-size board with key tables laid out logically there right in front of the player? I'd like to see the charts and tables simplified and made more a part of the game flow rather than pulling the player out of the flow and into a chart book. Third, an extended example of play, more examples, and illustrations to the rulebook would have been nice. Pictures can replace a lot of verbiage. The second part of the game is the Squadron Game. Here you are potentially managing your squadron, your aircraft, mission assignments, etc. I say potentially because a lot of the game is specified using optional rules. Stripping out all the options, you are left with rules that claim you are managing 24 pilots, Section 14 of the rulebook, but without the so-called optional rules give little or no direction as to how to do so. The rules for going beyond a single ship game are not in the campaign sections, but rather are listed in the optional rules section. The rules for using multiple four-ship divisions to attack multiple targets conclude by saying some rules may need to be adjusted to make this optional rule work for players. I don't know, I don't want to hit this too hard, but in my opinion, the Squadron Game is more like a collection of ideas that you may pick and choose from, and with some house rules, you may figure out how to get it to work. For those of you who own the game, I'd like to hear what you think. Conclusion. I think the mainline single ship game is just fine for both one-off missions and the campaigns. The procedural feel of performing the mission step by step, but still with quick resolution, is well done. I also think the single division optional rule, such that your missions are with your aircraft plus the other 3 A4s, will also work fine if you want more friends with you on your mission. Going forward, the single ship game may benefit from more role-playing rules to flesh out the pilot abilities, experience, skill levels, and so forth. Anything that enhances the you are there experience would fit nicely. The Squadron Game is a different beast and should stress higher level concerns such as leadership, pilot management, aircraft management, and mission fulfillment. However, it needs to be given the attention it deserves and should ditch the idea of having an individual pilot that is you in favor of managing these other factors. Further, the game should eliminate many of the optional rules that suggest how the game might be played and concentrate on a tight rule set that specifies how the game is played. As it stands, Squadron Management is, in my opinion, a bit half-baked, and as indicated in the current rulebook, may require players to play amateur game designer to make it work. But then, I think you guys know by now that I like playing amateur game designer, so I may end up doing exactly that. I'd really like to hear from you guys on this one, so please let me know what you think. Go ahead and subscribe, comment, and hit that notification bell. That's all for now, my friends. This is Paul, the Oka Knight, wishing you a pleasant evening.